Welcome, everyone, to Sasquatch Beyond the Outpost, your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Jim Myers.
And I'm your co-host, Sabilla Irwin.
How are you doing, Sabilla?
I'm awesome. I'm
I'm
happy, happy,
glad to
happy.
hear that.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to see you.
Yeah,
Happy
yeah, it's
to
been
have.
been a little bit. We're doing our podcast a little less frequently, but hopefully they're interesting to y'all. I've had some people write me and say, I wish you had the old format. I'm not sure what they meant by the old format.
Maybe the live show.
Maybe the live show, but we're going to carry on doing it this way, the pre-recorded shows, and hopefully you can tune in each time we do it. Um, we wanted to let y'all know, real quick, housekeeping detail is that our escape room is finally open for business, and you can book it online at the Sasquatch Outpost website. And we've had a few bookings already, and we're hoping to have a lot more. And um, hopefully, those of you in Colorado will make a plan to come to Bailey. And we'll be open all year. So in the wintertime, when it's cold and snowy outside and there's nothing to do, you can come to Bailey and do an indoor activity and hopefully figure out what happened to our researcher, William Booth. And it's a lot of fun. I'll tell you right now, you'll have a good time, and you might even succeed in getting through the escape room. If you don't, you'll have to come back and try again. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, no, we're having a great time with it. And we did our chat room camp out, and I think we had to begin with, we had about eight of us, and then Terry had to leave for a family emergency. And Terry, if you're in the chat today, we would love to know how things ha went for your nephew. We were all very concerned about that, and we didn't get an update. So we would love to know an update. And but we had a great time, and we had Southern Cal Sasquatcher Ralph world famous chili, and it was awesome. And it lives up to expectations, I'll say that. And we enjoyed that for a couple of meals actually. And Pat and Dan brought some ribeye steaks and shrimp from the Gulf. So I mean, people were like, "Man, this is like gourmet. This is gourmet eating out in the woods." So I said, "Well, that's the way we rock around here." So,
That's the best. Food always tastes so much better when you're camping
oh,
anyway.
isn't it true? Isn't
Yeah,
it true? You start with something that tastes really good, and you go out in the woods and it tastes even better. So,
truth.
because you're the fresh air, and you're usually hiking and getting hungry. So,
Yeah.
um, but we have a few photos I want to show you from the camp out, because we did some exploring and we saw some really weird things. Just one quick update. I took some folks on a night hike 2 nights ago. Wayne was with me. We had gone out, and we had gone about a mile in, and we had sat for a while, and we were heading back, and we had a rock tossed at us. And if you've never hiked in Colorado in the woods, it is absolutely silent. There's no crickets, there's no bugs, there's no birds. It's just completely quiet. So when you have something like that come through the air, and I think Wayne and I were talking about, I think it went over, there was a big hill behind us. I think it came from the hill, hit a branch above us, landed and rolled down the hill in front of us. And I immediately said, "Who kicked that rock down the hill?" And they all said, "We didn't kick it. It came from behind us somewhere." So that was an exciting little addition to the evening. That's only the second time I've had a rock thrown at me when I've been in the woods. And it was, um, you definitely know they're there when that happens, because there's nobody else out there. We didn't see any other people, and it was completely quiet. And here comes this. I mean, it probably was baseball sized at least, because the
Yikes.
way it hit the branch, and then when I heard it hit the ground, it was a big thud. And so they didn't want to hit us. They didn't hit us. I think they intentionally threw it over our heads, but it was kind of like you made a good point. You said there's a big difference between throwing a rock or tossing a rock.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in hindsight, this one was tossed kind of over our heads. It wasn't thrown like, with aggression. It was just kind of boop, throw
Right.
over us.
Right.
And maybe it was just to let us know that they were there. But I kind of interpreted it as, okay, we're going to make our way on out. We're not going to dilly-dally anymore. So we kind of scooted on out of the woods. Um, but the group responded really well. Nobody freaked out. It was kind of, oh, wow, that was interesting. And so you just never know. You never know with Sasquatch what's going to happen.
So true.
You've had lots of experiences like that, Sibylla, where they let you know they're there. They let you know, sometimes they don't. I mean, a lot of times they don't. They don't
Yeah.
do anything. But like that night, they very clearly wanted us to know they were there,
Hmm.
and we interpreted it the way we were going to interpret it. So,
Right. Right. That's awesome.
but I wanted to show you a couple of these photos that we had that we took when we were out exploring because we found some really weird tree structures, and you'll see some of oh, this is I sent this to Sibylla to show y'all. Show them the dark one first. So where we were hiking the other night, this is what we saw. I mean, it was ten o'clock at night. It was dark. I was just took a picture into the woods with the flash. Then I took a picture. This is with a recent iPhone. I took a picture on low light mode, and this is what it looks like. It looks like it's daytime. I mean, it's amazing the difference that that an iPhone can take this picture. And if I had just shown Sibyl this picture, she would have thought it was early morning or late evening with the long shadows. Those shadows
Hmm.
are from the moon. And so
That's amazing.
it's amazing. I mean, if you have an iPhone 15 or 16, maybe even earlier, you have this option of low light photos. You just have to hold the camera very still because it takes 2 or 3 seconds to take the picture.
Hmm.
But you can see if we were looking at eye glow back in the trees, you would be able to see those Sasquatch
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
So just wanted to show you that many of you have a very good research tool
With your
with you
iPhone.
all the time in your
Yeah.
iPhone.
I mean,
So, and
here we
Android
go.
may have the same thing. I don't know.
Here we go. This is night.
This is night,
Same area.
and this
And
is the same shot with the low light mode on. So it's amazing. It
that
really is
is
amazing.
that is really great.
So these are the trees. That's Jeff from the chat room, and I asked Jeff to stand there for some perspective on size, but we found three trees like this that were kind of, I don't know how they got them up there, but there were no, and in none of the three cases was there a stump anywhere near. So this tree is just kind of placed up on top of this other tree with the butt end up in the air, and we can't figure out how it got there.
And
It
it's
doesn't make
not
any
and
sense.
it's not a sturdy tree either that it's
No,
in. I mean, that's
no,
a little.
that little tree, the top end may have been touching the ground that supported it, but still, it's not a big tree that it's leaning on. And if it had fallen on that tree, it would have just knocked it down.
You would
So
have,
it was clearly placed on that tree.
yeah, you would think.
You would
You,
think.
yeah.
And all of these trees I'm going to show you were within about 200 yards of each other in distance. So, and I think the next picture is just kind of a side. That's the same tree, just kind of sitting up in the air like that. I don't I don't know how they do it, but it was
Looks,
clearly not natural. That's my
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So
Like a marker.
this is another one. That's Ralph, Mr. Chili himself. But this one was cut off on the bottom by people, but then it was shoved up in this tree. Again, same way, don't understand um why they do it like this, or I just don't think humans um can easily do this.
Does
And I
it
think the
does it
side view shows you
does it look like it's been in the tree for a while?
it may have been in there for a while. It was raining a lot, so the wood was dark because it was all wet, but it's then the side view I think shows you again it's just sitting up there in the other tree and you can see there's no stump below it. It
Yeah,
didn't come from there. Um,
that's
but
crazy.
the third one is the most remarkable because it's so high up in the air. This one was way 15 feet up at least, almost parallel to the ground. And but again, all three very similar, but just bizarre. And that one had two
Yeah, you could
smaller
really.
branches below it. But look how high that is. And there was no stump anywhere. So I mean, you're walking through the woods and you see something like this and it looks bizarre. And that's what drew our attention to it. It's like, hey guys, look at this. This is really strange.
Yeah.
So just again, a reminder when you're out in the woods, even if you're not looking for Sasquatch, but you'll find things like these. And I get pictures all the time of people who find strange and bizarre tree structures in the woods. And I don't have any explanation for these. I don't think it was humans that did it. So
But like
just to show
but like
you,
you said, it certainly gets your attention. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
is that a marker of some kind?
yeah, because it looks out of place. It looks out
Yeah.
of place.
Yeah. Looks like some kind of marker.
So those are just a few things I was going to show before we got into our interview for today, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Joe, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the podcast. Can you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up, and then you kind of start with your experiences that you want to share with us today. And thank you for doing that. We
Yeah, thank you
appreciate
for
you.
being with us.
The I grew up in northeastern Kansas, more specifically Wyandotte County. So, um, and had my first experience. This is going to be a little bizarre, but um, I had experience with a UFO when I was about 6 years old, and it started out really bizarre. This is back in January of 1968, and my grandfather, maternal grandfather, had just passed away 3 days prior to this. So set up the scenario. He'd bought a rocking chair for um, my mother to rock me and then later on my younger sister. And when he'd come over to visit, he always sat in that rocking chair. And my mother would uh, rock my little sister to sleep when she couldn't fall asleep. So, and sometimes at night I would hear the rocking chair rock, and I'd go out there and sit next to the rocking chair while my mom rocked my younger sister to sleep. So one night I heard the rocking chair rock. So I get up, go out, expecting to see my mom in the rocking chair holding my baby sister and rocking her, and nobody's in this rocking chair. And the rocking chair is rocking back and forth by itself.
Wow.
And you can imagine my 6 years old, I'm sitting there kind of stunned. And all of a sudden, the rocking chair pivots by itself towards me.
Hmm.
And at the same time, here's this green ball of light or green orb that appears about where uh, somebody was sitting in the rocking chair where their head would be.
Hmm.
So it's got my undivided attention. I am just almost speechless. I can't even scream or nothing, just trying to take all this in. Well, not more than a couple seconds later, there's this loud vibration and hum inside the living room. And sorry, I get a little emotional when going back. This was a very traumatic experience when you're 6 years old.
Sure.
Wow.
And so the house is humming, loud hum. Now, my father and mother are in their bedroom sleeping. The dog is asleep uh, in the hallway, and my baby sister's asleep, obviously, in her bedroom. And nobody is hearing this or
Hmm.
experiencing this hum. And at the same time that it started humming, I noticed a light coming through the picture window in the front room. So I turned to look at this. Now it's got my attention away from the rocking chair. And I see what looks like two lights, two headlights stacked on top of each other, going uh, from like west to east. And all of a sudden it turns, and I realize it's three. It's in a triangular shaped pattern. And it's coming towards the window,
Mm.
which is bizarre. And I realize it's a black triangle. It's at night, you barely make it out, but I could see clear, and they're the brightest lights I've ever seen in my life.
Hmm.
Well, all of a sudden, there's a light that comes out of the middle of this bluish white light, and it hits me. And now I can't move. I can breathe, but I can't turn my head. I can't scream. I can't do anything. And this is where it gets weird. I feel myself get real light in weight, and I'm floating, levitating in the air. And I go through the picture window,
Mhm.
not breaking the glass, not
Mm.
actually go through the glass. And I'm outside the house, and I'm rapidly going towards this craft like it's sucking me into it. The next thing I remember, I'm in my bed, on my knees, upside down, and the blanket is half on the floor, half on me, and wondered what the heck happened to me. So I go to move, and all of a sudden I get this excruciating pain in the top of my right thigh, just for about a second, and then the pain immediately goes away, and then I scream. So my mom wakes up, and she comes in, and they called me Joey back then. She's, Joey, what's the matter? What's going on? So I tell her, and I told her there's a rocking chair was rocking, and there's this green light. And then I said, all of a sudden, I seen these three headlights shine through the window in the front room, picture window, and it was coming towards me. And my mom, she was trying to calm me down, and she says, "Oh, it's probably just some headlights from a truck um, that was on the street, maybe going down or something." Well, we was on a dead end street. There's no
Hmm.
big trucks going to come down that street.
Mm.
So I'm trying to say, but no, Mom, it had three headlights. There was two in the bottom and one on top. And she said, no, honey, it had to be a truck or something.
Just a clarifying question. So you were on the front or back porch where the rocker was?
No. This was in the living room. It's all happened in the
Oh,
living room.
inside the living room. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
inside
So
the
the picture
house.
window was right there next to you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was trying to think, well, maybe uh, that was my grandpa, which my grandpa would never do anything to hurt or scare me.
Mhm.
Right.
I was only 6 years old. So looking back on it, whoever controlled the triangular spacecraft evidently had the ability to rock a rocket chair and produce this green orb of light. So it
Hmm.
distracted me while they moved in position. And then there's this loud frequency hum, which I'm surprised nobody wake up, not even the dog. And my dad was a light sleeper. He was at the tail end of World War II in the South Pacific. So he and had malaria. And anyway, make a long story short. So from that, he was always a light sleeper. He was in the Army Air Corps and in Guam and stuff. So he learned from
Yeah.
his experience from the end of World War II to be a light sleeper.
Right.
Otherwise, you may not wake up from the enemy, from the Japanese. But so I was surprised he didn't wake up. Now, my mom and sister, they were heavy sleepers. Especially my sister, you could have hit her in the head with a sledgehammer. She would have woken up.
Yeah.
But the dog, now the dog was real sensitive. We had an old English sheepdog, And he never woke up or anything, which was highly unusual because any little noise he'd get middle of the night and bark, and he
Wow.
never moved. So as bizarre as this sounds, and I'm kind of shaking now, just going reliving this. Um, they had control. They were, I hate saying it, but it's like they were unconscious.
Hmm.
They had no idea that this was going on. And I don't know. I wished I could tell you that what the craft looked like inside or who was in that. I don't remember any of that. It may be in a memory somewhere, but I've tried. I thought about having regressive hypnosis to recover that, but I'm kind of afraid to what I might
Mm.
find is fear of the unknown. But I don't know how long I was gone. I was outside the house. I was gone. And where they took me, I don't know if it was just aboard the craft or they took me somewhere else. I have no idea. After that night, um, occasionally I would have these dreams and I would be paralyzed like I was when that like I couldn't move. I'd be in bed, whatever position I was in, that's the way it was. Dreams of like levitating or
Mm.
floating in the house or floating through the house, the roof. Really bizarre. And I didn't tell anyone when this all happened when I was a kindergarten. I was a really good student, very well mannered. I was in trouble at school all the time. I had bizarre behavior. And this was another bizarre incident. One time was in kindergarten. In class, I felt something like a tear in my eye. When I put my finger up there, there was a liquid that was yellow and a liquid that was black. It was kind of like, but it wouldn't mix together. It was kind of like oil and water. And I thought, where in the heck is this come from my right eye, right tear duct? So I went up and told the kindergarten teacher, and she looked at it, she says, "Oh, you probably got finger paint or something." I said, "Yeah, but it's black and yellow." And we weren't finger painting that day. There was no, it was put up. I don't think she knew what to tell me,
Wow.
but I would have bizarre incidents, bad behavior. I'd always in the principal's office over that. A lot of it, I was not getting sleep at night. It finally subsided, but there were other times when I would go to the doctor or dentist office, and I always before I would sit in that chair, no problem. But when I went to the dentist office after that incident,
Mm.
they had to strap me in, and I was screaming. And every time they approached me to put in like a mirror or the dental pick, I didn't want anything in front of my face or anything. It was just totally bizarre. My mom even said, "Joy, you've never been like that. What's the matter with you?" And so she'd tell me this, well, his grandfather just passed away, but he's
Mm.
normally not like that. And it took me a long time to get over needles and anybody with any instruments or
Yeah.
face. But anyway, the dreams continued on. And bizarre thing that happened, and I remembered this, whenever I would wake up from the dream, there would be a knocking on the ceiling or on the wall,
Mm.
and it was always three knocks. I don't know if that's to wake you up. They were signaling what the. In fact, one time I actually got up and heard the knock, and it was in my closet. And I went up to open the closet door, and of course there was nobody in there, but it sounded like somebody was in that closet door knocking, and it was always three knocks.
I
Interesting.
have experienced that personally as
Have
well.
you?
Absolutely.
Have you?
What
Yeah.
was it, three in your case too?
It's always three.
That's interesting.
Yes, that was always the case of mine. Um,
And I wonder if they're bringing you out of the state that they
Mm.
have put you in. That's what it always seemed like to
yeah.
me.
Well, I when I was out, I was out. I mean, it was like you was unconscious. I mean, I could breathe, but I could not move a single muscle. It was the only way I can describe it. He was paralyzed. It truly was.
Yeah.
And when always when you're sleeping at night, um, I had a bizarre dream that I was trying to run away from one time, and suddenly I was outside and I was above the house. My legs are going, pumping like a bicycle, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was just stuck in midair, but I was going up.
Hmm.
And then that I don't remember the rest of that dream. That was really weird. It just
Yeah.
off and on. So I had this going on, and years. I'll interject here just for a minute. Years later, when I got to this, when I was an adult, and I got to reading about UFO abduction, I was always, for some reason, always fascinated with that. And when I got to reading, and especially about implants, and I said, I remembered that night how painful it was in my right thigh, and I said, I wonder. So I went to feel that area, and when I did, I felt a little round, almost oval shaped uh,
Hmm.
uh, object in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the bizarre thing was, if I got to poking on it too much or feeling around, it would move by itself. It would either go deeper where I couldn't feel it all, or it would go to the left or right, or
Mm.
but it moved by itself. And I thought, oh my God,
That's frightening.
it is. It is extremely, because this is something I don't know what it is, who put it there, why it's put there. I don't know. And
Hmm.
when it's doing this, moving on its own, it's not like a little tumor or
Right.
knot or something. They don't do that, and there's no visible scar over this either. I
Wow.
also had. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and there's so many people who have had that experience. And
Yep.
earlier we were talking about Dr. Roger Lear, who used to remove implants, and of course, you've heard the way they when they try to extract them, how they move. They actually recorded Whitley Strieber's whenever they were trying to get his implant out of his ear. They
Mhm.
recorded it moved. And
They videoed it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they never got his implant out of his ear because it kept moving.
The and mine's still in there too. And I also believe that there's one in my right nostril. And I say that because I would have terrible nosebleeds. And I
Hmm.
always have my right nostril. Well, it's very occasionally left, but the right one, just like sometimes it turned on a faucet and just blood's just pouring out. And so I went
That's
to the
scary
doctor
too.
over this, and I did have allergies. So I asked the Dr. Steele, I probably shouldn't mention names, but Dr. Steele was the doctor that had examined me. And my mom said, yeah, he said he's having horrible nosebleeds, especially
Hmm.
out his right nostril. So he looked at me and he remarked right then, he said, well, he has a deviated septum.
Hmm.
My mom says, well, what's that? He said, that's that little ridge of, flesh or cartilage that divides your nostrils. And I said, his right nostril is much larger than his left nostril. And she said, okay, well, he said, was he in some kind of an accident or something? And she said, well, no, why? He said, well, it looks like it's a crushing injury. Something was inserted up his right nostril.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
And it's
That's
damaged the septum or the cartilage in between. And she said, well, no. I said, well, when was he younger? Did he
hmm.
jam something up in his right nostril? She said, well, no, not that I have. He said, well, evidence right here. It's a pretty significant injury. So
Wow.
then he looked up further and looked in both nostrils and everything. He said his left looks normal. His right one, he's got a large nasal polyp up there. He said we can set him up for surgery, but he seems to be breathing okay. But it's one of the more larger polyps that I've seen, and I think that's another implant.
Wow.
It's up in there. Now this is just conjecture on my part, but I think that is used to render you unconscious. Uh, I think they use that to obviously monitor brainwave activity. Um, it's also used to control pain because I had that right pain all of a sudden. All of a sudden, I didn't because the implant up my right nostril now this is looking back years later, must have controlled that and cut that pain off from the other implant that was in my leg. I think this one in my right leg is a tracker.
Hmm.
I would go on vacation with my parents. It didn't matter where I was at, where, what building I was at. I mean, I could be in reinforced concrete and I'd have these dreams like in a hotel room or something. I mean, we could be on vacation, Texas, Tennessee, California, where you name it.
Mm.
When they wanted to take me, they took me. And there was nothing I could or anybody else could do to stop it.
Right.
So it gives you the kind of background. This kind of segue into my Sasquatch experience. I've led a heck of a life as a kid, childhood, but now I have UFO experience. Now I had the Sasquatch experience. So 6 years after my UFO incident, I'm still being actively abducted. And I'm at this time, I know there's something going on, but I can't place I don't know what's going on with me. I know something's going on with the dreams and stuff. So we moved away from that house and we moved further out west. And we moved to a house that's on a dead end street. It's at this time it was been just recently been annexed by the town. We live on the outskirts of Kansas City, a major metropolitan city. And so this is on the Kansas side. It's by woods. Behind us is a horse pasture. There were two horses there, sometimes more. Whoever the owner was would sometimes board a couple of horses. And to the our backyard was ran into the woods, and there was a creek and a little ravine right there by our backyard. So the creek would flow all the way from the county lake, which is right by the Missouri River. So kind of set up the scenario. So it's 1974. I'm 12 years old. I'm still being actively abducted. I noticed two things and this is a period from about late July to early October. The horse pasture would get overgrown with grass. The horses would not come down there. About the last 2 weeks of July, you would see them, and that they would stay up at the barn. They would not come down at all. The grass would start getting overgrown, which I always thought was kind of odd. So this is our first year in this house. So there's woods. I'm a young boy. That's a perfect playground for adventure,
Absolutely.
And so I'd seen this. The creek was running a little low, so they had some of the sandy bottom was exposed. And I noticed these round circular tracks. Now, it wasn't very long set of tracks, but it was over by our house. And then there was a path I ran from our house down across the creek and up to this hollow oak tree, which is going to play a very important part coming up here. But so I thought, well, that's why the horses aren't coming down. They're out loose and they're down here in this creek, which was nutty, but 12-year-old boy, this is what you think. So I go down there and I'm trying to make sense of all this. And they're not perfectly circular, but mostly some are kind of oval shaped. So I didn't put any more to this. So a week later, this when things started going downhill or south or whatever. My sister and I, and it was friends of my mom and dad, their kids. Actually, their mom and dad was my godparents. Was raised in the Catholic Church. But anyway, we went down the creek one day, and I told them, hey, this is a really cool creek. It goes all the way for about a mile to the county lake, and this is fun. They said, oh, sure, we'll go with you. So we went out in my backyard, and my little sister's with us. And we get down to the creek, and now the creek's still running low. And as we start out, we notice this huge footprint in the sandbar, or this sand part where the water's running low, and it's filling with water.
Mm-hmm.
So something just went through there, and it's a big five-toed sort of human track, but a flat foot track. There's no like arch or something in it. So I'm thinking, oh my God. I said, that's a really big teenager down here. Well, it was way bigger than a teen. I'm trying, you're trying to kids, you're trying to rationalize this in your head. and it's fresh. And where the track was heading was right into a big, thick bunch of briars that grew all along this creek. Well, whoever was in there, they wouldn't have been able to get through that. That it was so densely thicketed and thorns and all that. There was no way they could be hiding in that. Just didn't make sense. And it dawned on me. Now, this 1974, 1972, that movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek, came out. So my dad and I took me that, and it was rated G. That was the
Yeah,
most
I remember
scariest
that.
G-rated movie I ever saw in my life. Uh, I mean, I said, "Are you kidding?" I thought, well, this is going to be fun, you know. Oh
Yeah.
man!
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, now my mind shifts gear, and I thought, oh, cuss, but doggone it, I said, this has got to be. Surely it's not a Boggy Creek monster here in my creek. You know, this is Kansas. That was Arkansas. There's no way. And so I remember my sister remembers this. She said, "Well, I remember as you turned around, you had this scared look on your face, and you told me to run.
Mm.
This track is filled with water." And I tell that kid's run, and they're kind of
Hmm.
stunned, like, "What do you mean run? Run from what?" You know. And so I kind of snapped out of it, and I thought, well, they can't be. There's no way that. And I kind of knew about Bigfoot and stuff. I said, "There's no way that there's a Bigfoot in
Yeah.
Kansas. You know, that's ridiculous." I said, "It's probably some big teenager that was barefoot trying to scare us." So we went on down the creek and come back, no more incident. So the next day, I go because it's summertime, um, and I used to go down the woods a lot by myself. But I go down the woods, and I smell this god awful putrid odor. I mean, it smelled like a cross between wet dog, skunk, and roadkill. I mean, it was just, it
Mm.
would gag you, almost bring you to your knees.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, there's some kind of dead animal in there. You know, I mean, it was so bad, I turned around and went back to the house. And my mom even remarked, she opened the window and she says, "What's that smell?" "Oh, it's putrid." And I said, "I don't know. I think it's some dead animal died back there or something." Well, a few hours later, we didn't smell that smell anymore. So this is about a week later, and I don't remember exact dates or anything, but this end of July, and it's hot summertime. So I go and I'm thinking, you know, they had that horse and the grass is growing. I said, I wonder if maybe they, you know, went up the hill on that path and maybe they're lost in the woods over there. Then, like I say again, this is 12-year-old mind thinking. So I went up the path and here's this hollow oak tree. And I thought, boy, and it's a big tree. It's probably 200 years old or something. I mean, it's been there a long time and it's kind of towering over the other trees. And around it is just all dirt. There's nothing growing around it. Well, when I went up there, and at the time, I didn't know that much about Bigfoot and their territory and stuff. Well, I walked underneath an X. There was two trees that were over and made a perfect X. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. Maybe some kids are, you know, playing. And then past this X, there was like these like nests. I can't explain it, but it was just kind of like a big nest that was woven branches and vines and leaves. And there were several of them, kind of like big giant pods. I describe it. And I thought, well, that's weird, you know, and maybe some kids making some forts or something. And so I tried to undo it and I couldn't even budge. They were wedged in there so tight and were so thick and strong that I thought, God, that kid's strong like Popeye eating
And
spinach, you
these
know.
were near the hollow tree.
Yeah, near the hollow tree, all in this dirt circle. There was no other plants, nothing growing in
Hmm.
this circle, not even any trees or leaves. And I thought, well, there's a path going. Maybe kids are just playing and they just
Right.
trampled the dirt, you know. And on the other side of the path that was going past that to some other houses, is on the other side of this woods, there was another X. And I thought, well, what the? So I'm trying to figure all this out, you know. I said, boy, there's some kids that got too much time on their hands. And it wasn't very big trees, but just kind of like sapling that made an X, but you could easily walk underneath them. I mean, they were probably maybe around 15 feet tall or something. Not super small trees, but not, fully matured trees.
How big were those nests?
That's another question.
They were, boy, I'm going to say around 5 feet in length,
Hmm.
and they look kind of like big giant pods or something, but they were woven.
Were
They
they
were
were they covered with vines, or were they just like a bird's nest?
there was an opening you could get to, usually on the other side of on the side of the hollow oak tree, there was an opening, but the rest would just be like it was
Hmm.
covered around like it was protecting something. I mean, and I remember kids, we'd go over there and we'd crawl in it, and it was kind of stinky in there, but we'd crawl in there and didn't think it. I thought the kids across the other side of the woods doing it, and they thought the same thing to us. And I said, we met one day, and they said, "Are you making these forts over here?" And I said, "No." I said, "I thought you were." And they said, "Well, I don't know anything about it." They said, so we didn't put anything to it, And so anyway, this is all one morning, and the next 24 hours is one of the most bizarre in my life.
Hmm.
So I was kind of small for my age, and real scrawny and skinny. So I looked over this hollow oak tree, and there's a big crack going up it that widens at the bottom and narrows at the top, about 6.5 feet tall, I imagine. So I look inside, and it's all hollow. So I
Hmm.
get the brilliant idea. I thought, you know what? I wonder. I'm pretty skinny. I think I could. See, I've never been inside of a tree before, so that's what I did. I skinny.
Why not try?
Yeah. Well, so I thought this would be pretty neat. So I got in there and skinnied inside this tree. And man, I wish to hell I'd never done that. That was one of the worst mistakes of my life. When I got into the tree, it immediately, and this going to sound bizarre, but it lit up. There
Hmm.
was like little particles of light, yellow light. And I first thought they were fireflies. And well, usually fireflies don't come out in the daytime. You see them at night, but this is broad daylight. This is probably maybe 10 o'clock in the morning around there somewhere.
Mhm.
Uh, not, yeah, probably about 10 something anyway. It gets a little bizarre from this because then these lights are coming out of this tree, and there's more of them, and they're floating down from the top of this tree. It was about inside was about 8 feet to the where it started getting solid again on top, and they were coming right out of the top and were floating down like feathers at first, like a
Hmm.
feather would float back and forth till it reached the ground.
Mhm.
And there's only several of them at a time. Then all of a sudden, more started coming out, and these picked up speed. They were coming down, and I remember reaching out because I thought, well, I'm gonna grab one of these fireflies, and my hand went through it, or it went through my hand, however you want to do it. And I thought, what the heck? And
Hmm.
more of these particles come down, and now they were going inside of me, inside of my body. And all of a sudden, the only way I can describe it, I just got uh, a sense of lightness and happiness,
Hmm.
a state of euphoria is what I was in. It's almost, I can compare it to like if you go to the dentist to get that wisdom tooth pulled that's hurting like heck, and you're nervous, you know it's going to heck, but when they put the nitrous oxide on, all of a sudden,
You
oh
feel
man,
real
this is
good after
great.
that.
This chair's really comfortable. That
Yeah.
dentist, boy, he's a swell dude. I just you just in, you're in a different state of mind altogether. And that's what it was like. That was probably the scariest part. And all of a sudden I had thoughts, I don't think I ever want to leave this tree. I want to stay right here, and mom could bring my lunch here and all that weird thoughts. And as I'm thinking this, and I'm in a happy, and I thought, boy, this is really cool. It's all lit up inside this hollow oak tree where it was dark. And all of a sudden, these yellow particles of light started swirling around me, and they're gaining speed. They're just circling around me. They're in me, they're outside of me, they're circling, and they're picking up speed. And I'm saying, man, this is really neat.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, then, boom, it went dark. I started getting nauseated at my stomach. I got a headache. I was woozy and dizzy. And all I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this tree. And so I go to get out of this tree, and it's difficult now. I know this is going to sound really bizarre and weird, but it felt like the opening was closing on me,
Hmm.
like it didn't want to let me go. I
That's
know
a
that
scary
sounds
thing.
bizarre.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
But I'm telling you the truth. I swear to God, this is the truth. And I'm a Christian and raised Catholic, so I don't make that statement lightly. I just barely get out there, and I had to take my arms and pull myself the rest of the way out of there. And I get out, and when I get up on the ground, I can barely stand. I begin to heave. Nauseated. I got the dry heaves, and I'm sick. So this was about 10 o'clock in the morning when I got out of the tree. This is kind of weird. It was like there's almost missing time because when I got home, my mom always made lunch for his kids, and sister, and she made tuna fish sandwiches, which I really love tuna fish sandwiches. And my sister's already eaten lunch, and she says, "Well, come here and eat lunch." And I said, "I can't, Mom." She says, "Why?" I said, "I'm sick and I feel like I'm going to throw up." And she says, "Well, if you don't feel good, go to bed."
Hmm.
So I did. I went to my bed, crawled there. Now, this is about noon, and this began about 10 a.m. So there's a spirit that this went on that
Wow.
I can't account for 2 hours of missing time.
And you said
Wow.
you're about 12 at this point?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and still being actively abducted. But I had that going on besides this. So I went and laid in bed. And next thing when and I mean, I was in a deep sleep, not sleep paralysis, but just a deep sleep, like just spent, like I'd run the Boston Marathon or something. So I get up and I felt pretty good. So I thought maybe I'd lay down for a half hour. When I got up, my mom says, "Man, you was in bed an awful long time. You must not have felt good." And I said, "Yeah, why?" She says, "Well, supper's on the table. Come up, meet." What? I'd slept for like over 4.5 hours.
Which for a
And
12-year-old boy in the middle of the day
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
no, I never did that. I never took naps back then. As
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah, I didn't either.
you wanted to go out and play, and I had a whole woods
Yeah.
to play in and friends and stuff. And my friend even come in. I remember this now. They knocked on the door and he said, "Well, he can't come out and play right now. He's sick. He's throwing up and everything."
Wow.
And so when I got up, I felt fine. So then I thought, you know what? Uh, Felt better and stuff. And it was a hot day, and my friends was on a vacation trip. Said, kind of by myself. My sister, she had an old friend. They was playing with dolls in her bedroom. I said, I'm gonna. And back in those days, parents let their kids roam. You take off and go and hey, just be back here for lunch or you know. So I took off in the creek and I got down from my back path from my backyard, started heading towards the lake. And this is, I'm gonna say about the same time, maybe 9, 10 o'clock each somewhere. And as I'm wading barefoot down the creek in jean shorts, and I'm going sploosh, sploosh. Because some parts are a little deeper than others. Pretty soon I hear a sploosh, sploosh. I stop. What? So I go on, and it's whatever. There's something behind me, but it's mimicking my steps. As I step down, it steps down, but it's a whole lot louder sploosh than mine. And so I'm going 3 or 4 times, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's that big teenager that was barefoot and now he's behind me and he's going to beat the crap out of me. Just the mean son of a gun. That's what I'm trying to think of this. And so as I thinking, I said, he's trying to sneak up on me. So I said, next step, I'm going to take the left foot. I'm going to go down normal, but the right foot, I'm going to hold it above the water before I go all the way down. So I do, and I heard the sploosh, sploosh. Take my right foot, and it's now stopped by the water, and I hear a sploosh, and water goes up my back. So now it's confirmed that there's something behind me. It's very, very large, very big, or someone. So being raised Catholic, the only thing I think to do was, I mean, I didn't even have my Boy Scout pocket knife with me. I said, Guardian Angel, if you're near, please protect me. So I closed my eyes and I slowly turned around to look, face who was behind me, and nobody's there.
Hmm.
I mean, it just that quick. And now, and I'm left out of detail. I'm sorry. While this is going on, there's usually a lot of bird noise and animal noise and stuff in the woods.
Mhm.
It was deathly silent when I started out. So then, as I thought, okay, it's my imagination. So I started going on up to the creek to the county lake. All of a sudden, then I started hearing the birds and squirrels jumping tree limb, and rabbits and different noise all through the woods. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're just having a bad dream only in the daytime. I said, you know, thinking to myself, so I make it to the county lake, turn around, I'm come back. And so I'm trying to think of what if that was it, teenager, somebody was jacked with me and now they're going to catch me before I get home. So all the way back, and I said, no, I think it's just my imagination. So now I'm traveling a creek, and the creek, just before you got to where my house was, there was a little bend that you come around, and then it ran fairly straight for a little while ways. And when I rounded that bend, there it was. There was a Sasquatch. And I'm looking this huge Sasquatch, and it's in a weird position because it's laying on its back with its hands tucked behind its head, and one knee is propped up, like it's lounging or relaxing.
Like we would do
It's
if we were just
waiting.
chilling.
Yeah, and it dawned on
Hmm.
me it was waiting for me. It knew I was coming back, and it's right on the path. The path continued on a creek that you could either go to the east to my backyard or to the west where he was. So to get to my house, I had to run to where he was at, which that wasn't happening.
Right?
And that's when he stood up and stood up. And my God, I'm thinking, holy cow. I said, I just
Hmm.
was shell shocked. And it's standing, it's completely covered in jet black hair. He's standing straight, looking at me. We've locked eyes. Its eyes are dark. There's no whites to it whatsoever. And face is black, but it's covered like with a mustache with facial hair. And if I hadn't, we're only about 15 feet away or less. And so I'm just stunned, trying to take all this in, what I'm looking at. And he's looking down at me, and it's kind of weird. He kind of cocked, would be his right brow went up a little bit, kind of like aha, and the kind of faint smile, which was odd. And I thought, he was waiting for me. He was expecting me to come that way. And he said, now, and never growled, never bared his teeth, never lunged at me, nothing.
Hmm.
As he went to go down on all four, his arms were really long, very muscular. As he's going down, this is where it got weird again. All of a sudden, he got blurry for about a second, and then he turned invisible, which I now call cloaked, right in front of me. And he's looking at me while he's doing it. So he's deliberately showing me that he can cloak. So he
Yeah.
turned around and actually took, well, as before he went down, I skipped a step. He took a little slight step with me. All he had to do was go up the path towards the hollow oak tree. But he deliberately stepped over and went into this big patch of briars going uphill and went through this cloaked and was spider crawling like Spider-Man up the side of a building in Manhattan. I mean, I could see where the hands was going out, one hand and one hand be way over here, and like his foot would step way over here, and that's the way he crawled up the hill, and he was noisy about it. He was not trying to be quiet at all. I mean, in fact, he got halfway up, and there was a small tree, and he swayed it all the way to the ground one way, all the way to the ground the other side, and did it again, repeated with that tree, and continued on spider crawling up this. And I could see the vegetation briars moving out of the way, but I can't see him. I can see where his hands and feet are. And I'd actually moved up a little bit to watch him go straight up this hill. So I'm actually behind him. And he did again with another tree. He took this tree and swoosh, swoosh,
Wow.
swoosh, swoosh. So he gets up top this hill, and I'm shaking my head in disbelief. And so I go up the path, sides this thing, so I can't see him up there. Again, it's deathly quiet. There's no animal noise, nothing going on. And then here come either like little acorns or rocks. And they're whizzing by me. They're clipping leaves and branches and everything going through there to my left side. And they're being thrown with such velocity that it would have put a Major League Baseball player to shame. I mean, this is like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And the same thing happened again, the second one, and right in the exact same spot.
Wow.
I mean, this was not, you know, lobbing things or like lobbing a softball or something. This was thrown with a tremendous strength and force and accuracy. I can't see where he's at because I'm looking around where that's coming from, and it hit me. Then that fear really kicked in. I'm sitting there, and I remember in the back of my head, and Dad telling me, and he was a hunter. He said, "Son, never run from a wild animal." He said, "You just back away slowly." He said, "Or they'll chase you and consider you prey, and they will
Mm-hmm.
attack and kill you possibly." And so I'm thinking this. So I'm slowly backing away. My heart's beating up in my throat. I slowly back till I get to the path to where the path goes down the hill. As soon as I got there, I took off and ran as fast as I could. I don't remember if I jumped over the creek, ran through the creek, but I was up the other side, and I ran into the backyard, got to the back door, ran and hid the back room and shut the door and hid. 2 weeks went by. Now I'd go out in the yard, but I always looked in the from the backyard into the woods. And every time I was out there, I always felt like I was being watched. You just get that weird feeling like somebody's
Mm-hmm.
eyes are upon you.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 weeks went by, and I seen some of the other little kids that were on the other side of the woods playing by the hollow oak tree. That's how close this was, because I could see from my backyard across the creek, I could see where the hollow oak tree was. And I thought, they're over there playing. And obviously, if the Sasquatch is over there, it's not attacking them or anything. I thought, well, maybe. And I said, no, it's not my imagination. Maybe he just was moving through the woods or something. So I went back over there, and sure enough, nothing happened. I was with a hollow oak tree and was talking to some of them kids, and they left. So then I got to thinking, I remembered where he stood and where the tree was by. So I went and got my dad's tape measure. And I said, I'm going to big to see how big he really was. Now, his head was slightly above the limb on this particular tree on the path that he was standing by. And he was pretty close to this tree. So it wasn't, like trees like 10, 12,
Right.
15 feet away. It's only just a foot or two away from him when he stood up. So I used that tape measure and measured, and I got to the bottom of this tree limb. Now, his head's a little above this tree limb. And from that to the ground, it measured 9 feet, 7 inches. And I remember I said, that can't be right. I measured it again. Dad always told me, measure twice, cut once or something, those. So I'm sitting there. So I measured again, exact same thing. And I remember the tape, I hit the button, that retracts the tape measure. And I dropped the tape measure, and I looked down, and my hands are just trembling. And I thought, my God, this is a giant. This is no wonder he was just massively tall. And then I remembered back to the footprint that we'd seen a week earlier. And I said, that was deep. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 inches deep. And us kids were standing on that sand. We're not even making a dent. You couldn't tell we was standing there. The sand was so packed and everything. And he crushed it. I mean, it was, and I thought, oh my God, he was in that briars on our side in our backyard, back. So anyway, I started seeing when I go in the woods, I was always on the lookout. I always felt like I was being watched. I never smelt the stench ever again. I never heard any noise till a few years later. I heard a couple of whoops. One time they were low key,
Hmm.
and I would see this kind of like shimmering light in the distance in Leeswood, which I thought was just the wind. But it didn't put two and together that he was there. He was cloaked. But other than seeing the track, um, my sister, she never saw anything like that, and she would go down the woods too, her and her friend. And if I would be with somebody else, I wouldn't have anything happen. But and I went down the woods a lot of times myself. When it was by myself,
Hmm.
alone, that's when he would come out, and he was always cloaked after that. He never. That was that one appearance. He just like he was deliberately showing me, this is what I look like. This is what I am. I have the ability to cloak, and I'm going to make lots of noise going through this briar patch. Just if he could have stood still and cloaked, I wouldn't, or he could have run up the path, but he deliberately chose to show that while he was cloaked, I'm still here. I'm going to show you going through this brush. I'm going to show you by swaying these trees. And of course, dummy me, I was so shocked by it that sometimes you do
Oh,
stupid things. I ran up the path to get a better look at what was doing this, and that's when the acorns come, or I assume acorns because it's the hollow oak tree,
yeah.
and he threw them with such force, uh, uh, almost superhuman strength, and with accuracy.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it was just lobbing at him. I mean, like an ape would kind of take rocks or kind of lob at you or something. This was like thrown like a human
Yeah.
and with great force. But careful not to hit me. I mean, it was to scare me off, like get away from our portal tree. And then I would learn later after I got thinking about it, that he saved me from that because I was in the process of getting transported wherever that portal was taken.
Right, right. How far away is that position from where the hollow oak tree is?
Oh, from that position, it's just up the hill and maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 feet.
Oh, it's really
That's what,
close.
yes, yes. I mean, I know this could sound corny, but the Sasquatch and I were next door neighbors, practically. I mean, that's how close this was. I don't know if that had to do with who was abducting me. If
Hmm.
it was only for the 3 month, they were only there for a 3 month period,
Out of the year.
uh, and I could always tell when they were there because the grass would overgrow and the horses would stay away from them. In fact,
Hmm.
there's another I forgot too. My sister had mentioned this. They used to ride those horses bareback, her and her friend.
Hmm.
And the guy didn't seem of course, this is the 70s. This was a different time, now with lawsuits, you wouldn't let kids ride your horse bareback. He didn't seem to care. But one day they come out and they were kind of upset. And I said, what's the matter? So the guy come out, tell us about the horses. And I said, well, so what did he say? And he said, well, I don't care. But he said, don't put braids in their manes. And they
Interesting.
said, They said, and her friend Chris said, yeah. I said, we didn't, and we said, we told him we didn't put braids in your manes. He said, well, I don't think it's funny. He said, I don't
Wow.
mind if you do it, but stop braiding their manes. And so she said, I don't know what he's talking about. Well, we just grabbed a hold of him and kind of hung on a little bit, and they were kind of pretty tame. They just walked around. They wouldn't full gallop. But he chewed us out for braiding the horse's manes because he said, "I don't know what you kids think you're doing, but stop it."
Because then
And
he was
so the
probably
horses
trying
always
to,
said,
to take the braids out.
Yeah, because it's not a
"Yeah,
regular, I mean, it's not like a braid like we do in our hair. It's real knotty and
no." It was
twisted
like a
and
loose. Yeah, it
yeah.
went because they would braid each other's hair. Her friend, and they said,
Wow.
"Well, we didn't do that. Why would we braid the horse's mane?" He said, "I know you're doing it." He said, "You're out there." So, like I said, as I go along, these other little details pop up from memory.
Sure.
But anyway, I think I was one of the words I was telling Isabel about the what I looking back on it, that when I was in that portal tree, I was this close to getting transported wherever that thing led to.
Hmm.
I think that the implant in my thigh, the tracking one, emits this low frequency signal, like a 20 hertz, that goes through dense materials.
Mhm.
And the I learned later on that the Bigfoot's infrasound, about infrasound, that it also is in that range of 20 hertz, very extremely low frequency. And I believe, I'm pretty confident this is what happened, since it was obviously, this tracker's probably was emitting constant signal, so they always knew where I was at. It was when I stepped in that tree and emitted that signal. Now it's the same frequency as the infrasound, and it activated that portal. That's what made it, why it activated on me and not the other little kids that would climb
Okay.
inside that tree.
Because you had that implant. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think they were kind of like a sub clan. But anyway, he was in charge of this small group or clan that was in the woods there. Was our next door neighbors practically. And he must have realized what was going on. And he blasted, I mean, sandblasted me with infrasound. He had to, because he had to not only stop the portal, but override the signal that was coming from, I know as nutty as that sounds, but that's the only explanation I come up with, because it immediately stopped the portal. And it was dark. And then I went from, hey, this is really cool. I'm never going to come out of here. And I'm going to have mom bring my lunch here, and to think, I got to get out of this tree. And I was nauseated. It was dark. I was woozy. I barely stand straight. I had a headache. And like I said, when I got out of that tree and felt like the tree was closing on me, I pulled myself out. And when could stand up the best I could, I was heaving. It was nauseated. It was that powerful of a
Wow.
blanket. And
That's
I think he had to, looking back on it, because had he not upped the intensity, I don't know that would have, probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys today. I would be transported wherever it was.
Well, you know, one question that comes to my mind is that tree still there today?
As far as I know, yes. My brother-in-law cuts grass for a friend of theirs that's disabled. And he said, yeah, there's a lot of woods back there where you guys lived. And I said, yeah. He said, I'm thinking about going mushroom hunting. I said, don't. He said, well, you
No.
don't. So I told him the story. I went ahead, and this is recently, I said, don't go down there.
was
I
that
said, if you come across this oak tree, don't go anywhere near it.
was that oak tree still alive whenever?
Yes, this was the odd thing. It was hollow inside, had this, so it should have been dead, right? But it was still alive. It still had leaves and it was producing acorns. And all around these pods or nests was around this tree. It had a great significance to the clan of Sasquatch that were lived there. They were centered around this tree. Now, juvenile Sasquatch can also cloak. I think this is an ability that they have from birth. Now this is conjecture on my part, but very early on they can cloak. And I think it's a defense survival mechanism. Like Sasquatch, they're like people. And I consider these people. There's good people, there's saints to serial killers, and everybody else in between. I feel the same way, that there's good Sasquatch and there's bad Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And yes, I do think that there's some Sasquatch that will kill and eat people.
Okay.
But not luckily, thank God, this was not the case in my case. He
Yeah.
never went to harm me, never touched me. Now later on, the juvenile Sasquatch would do that cloaked.
And the
So like I
scary
said,
thing is when they're cloaked, they can walk they can walk right up to you.
they did.
It's
You
just like
can't.
when we had that rock thrown at us, we were
Uh-huh.
all looking up with our headlamps up the side of the hill, and we couldn't see anything up there. So
Yeah.
maybe they were cloaked tossing
Yeah.
that rock down. I
They
don't know.
had to be. Well, the Sasquatch, when he threw the acorns, when I went top of the hill, he was cloaked, but
Mhm.
that didn't stop him from throwing them.
Right,
And like I
right.
said, they were coming up like a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, and with great accuracy. He was deliberately making sure that he didn't hit me or touch me. When I
Yeah,
look back, he could have probably knocked me out with one of those. But he deliberately was showing and like, stay away from this tree. You dumb little kid.
right.
He said, I just pulled you out at once. I'm not going to pull,
Don't go back in there again.
Yeah. And so as far as I know, I'm the only one that's been inside a Sasquatch portal tree while it activated the portal and was saved from going to the portal by a Sasquatch. Now, that, as crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what happened, and that's the truth.
Hmm.
Wow.
Um, now, the relationship that Sasquatch had with whoever was abducting me, I don't know if they were working in conjunction with them, um, or they were maybe at odds with each other. But I think that both of them was aware of each other. They knew what was going on. I was just in the middle. And I
Hmm.
kind of think maybe lean towards maybe they was working in conjunction, like they probably maybe telepathically told him, get him out of here. He's our abductee.
Hmm.
We don't want him going through that portal. Stop it now. He did. And then there was a period of missing time. I may have laid down after I got out of there. I don't remember much. I just remember being at home, and then something from 10 o'clock to noon. There was like almost a 2 hour window of missing time there, which
Wow.
was the
And if you
Sasquatch.
had gone missing in that tree, no one would
Yeah.
never have known what happened to you.
Oh, I would have been the one that the kid on back then that when they had the kids on the
Milk
milk
carton.
cartons,
No
they're
cartons.
missing,
Yeah.
never seen. I would have been one of those milk carton kids that they'd
Yeah.
never seen.
Wow.
And parents are frantically looking for you. Yeah, I don't. I have a feeling, I don't know this for sure, but had I gone to wherever destination that portal led to, I don't think I'd have come back. I
Yeah.
think it's wherever, different, maybe
Wow.
a different dimension or realm
Wow.
where it was
Maybe.
going. As far as I know, as nutty as this sounds, I'm the only one person that probably was saved by Bigfoot's infrasound. So anyway, back to the point of the story, I would learn to look for this shimmering light. And it
Hmm.
actually, especially after I'd been in that portal with this energized, I don't know if it was preparing my body or and mentally too, I could see that shimmering light a lot better than I could before. I could look up there and I said, okay, he's standing up there, or he's in, and sometimes I would see smaller forms of this, but they'd climbed a tree. And I realized that that was a juvenile
Hmm.
Sasquatch. They can climb trees, not the big one, but the smaller ones. And over a period of time, once in a while, they would come up the path and touch me, just kind of hit me in the back, not hard, but touch me back, and I could hear it pat, 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 when it run down. And
Hmm.
there was the last time, I'll get to that later on. This was a little different time, the last time they did that. And I believe this was like a adolescent female Sasquatch. But so now it's the next year. I'm 13, and we have this male Doberman all of a sudden showed up in the neighborhood. Nobody knows where he came from or who he belonged to. But this is the most vicious dog I've ever seen. All the kids were scared of him. He'd find dead cats, smaller dogs, anything he could get in his mouth, he would kill. So we hadn't seen him for a couple of days. And so well, maybe he moved on, or maybe they got him chained up somewhere. I'm in the woods, and the path that goes to the houses on the other side, there he is at the end. Oh, crap. Sorry, my language. Here he comes, taking off a dead run at me. So the nearest tree that had limbs that I could climb was the portal tree. So now I'm climbing this hollow oak tree and just get up there. And this dog, I've never seen a dog that, most dogs are content. Once they tree, they'll just either stand or sit and bark. This thing was growling and was trying to climb that tree to get at me. And I'm 13, kind of small size. I mean, there's no way I could fight this dog off. This is a full grown male Doberman. And so I started calling out for help. I didn't know what else to do because I thought, man, if he gets up in this tree, I don't know how much higher I'm going to be able to go. And I mean, he was either infected with rabies or he was demonically possessed, one of the two. But this dog wanted me in the worst way, and he just had it look like I'm going to kill you. And so I was calling for help, and then it dawned on me. I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "They're here. The Bigfoots are here. I'm in their portal tree. He's got to be close by." And sure enough, 2 minutes after I thought, I don't know if the Bigfoot read my mind or heard this flash or whatever, but I hear this loud, shrill whistle. It sounds more like a deep male human voice, shrill. It's just like, or I can't even make it was like a deep whistle. And the dog stopped, kind of cocked his head, and took off in that direction. And all I'm thinking at this point is, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to get down this tree and run like hell and get inside my house. Maybe have mom call the dog catcher or police or
Mhm.
whatever. So as I'm getting down, I got out of the tree and I took about 3 or 4 steps and I hear this loud yelp and silence.
Hmm.
And so I'm thinking about this for a second. And I knew what happened. I didn't see it happen, but I knew what happened. The I call him the big man. That's referring to the alpha male Sasquatch at that time. He killed him with one blow. I mean, it was so quick, and so the dog didn't even have time to scream or yelp or woo woo. It was just like all the air in its lungs was forced out. I just can imagine that he was like a big hammer fist. He just come down and broke his spine and went clear through him. I mean, and
Did
it
you
was
ever find the body of the dog?
no. That was the strangest part. There was a guy that come around. He was putting on telephone poles. Have you seen a male Doberman? We called it Satan. I don't know what its real name was, but was looking for it. Dog was never found. Not even its leather collar that was around its
Hmm.
neck. I don't know what the
Wow.
Sasquatch did with it, if they took it and ate it or what, but it was never, not a single trace of it. They never found that Doberman. That was the end of it. That was the second time he saved my life, literally.
Hmm.
And so then I realized, okay, he's not out to hurt me. He's watching over me.
Mhm.
So now this Doberman incident took place. I'm going out in my backyard at night because it's summertime and right there by the woods. And that very night, I look out and it's kind of a dark night, not pitch black, but maybe a crescent moon, maybe. And I see these pair of red taillights out in the field. It's like 2 flashlights with a red lens cover. There's light coming out of it. And I got to look and I said, well, that's odd. There's nobody that's going to park in a horse pasture in the middle of the night in the tall grass like that because it had divots and holes and stuff. And they're glowing red. I mean, they're actually shining light out of them.
Mhm.
So I stand there trying to make sense of all this. And it dawned it was him. He after that dormant, he would come out at night, and then it was more times than I could count. If I was out, especially if I was by myself, or my sister was out there with me, or friends of his kids, he was always out there, and he could stand still for a long period of time. Every once in a while, you could see like one go out, like maybe he blinked an eye or something. Sometimes, once in a great while, there would be a second set of eyes that would be a little bit lower than him, and then a couple times there were like two more sets of eyes, but they were close to the grass, which is about 4 feet tall. They were just over the edge of the grass, and there was had 4 sets of eyes looking at me. But that was real rare. But anytime I was out there at night, especially on a dark night, he was out there watching. And I don't know if that was him doing it, if the whoever was abducting me told him watch over him. Um, like I said, this weird, but I definitely knew there was some connection between this Sasquatch and who was abducting me. And I kind of believe they were working hand in hand. I think the portal tree incident was an accident. I don't think nobody, they didn't see it coming. The Sasquatch didn't see it coming, but he's the one that rescued. And I don't know if they sent him. I know this sounds crazy. Send some kind of telepathic message to stop, get him out of there. We don't want him going where he's going. He's our abductee, and so then it got to the point where when I'd have these dreams at night at the new house, we had 2 apple trees out in the backyard, and apples would get thrown against the house, and sometimes it sounded like they were slapping against the house. Somebody was slapping. That's what mom and dad said, and they'd get up and they would ask me the next morning. He said, "You didn't hear all that noise? What? They're throwing apples against the house?" And sounded like somebody was slamming their hand up like a fist or hand big hand up against the house making noise? And I said, no, well, because I wasn't there. I wasn't in an abduction. And I don't, and when I tried to think back and I said, are they trying to wake my parents and tell me abduction? Or are they being told to distract my parents while I was being abducted? And I kind of leaned towards the latter
Mm-hmm.
because um, as soon as I got back and then heard the knocks, um, that would stop, all activity stopped. And one day when they was telling me that, I thought, well, this is always coming from behind from that horse pasture. So one day I walked out into the horse pasture, thought if I could see anything. And sure enough, there was a big circular like nest in the grass that was behind our house, the back of our house, looking right in my bedroom. So Sasquatch were there at night, bedded down. They, instead of bedding at the tree, they were,
They
and
were
this is, like I
watching
said, it's
you.
not watching me. And this is all during a 3 month period. Now, when they were gone, but by Halloween, they were always gone. And thank God I would hate to be the little kid that would cut across through the woods to go trick or
Oh
treat
yeah.
and run into almost 10 foot tall Bigfoot and on Halloween. You talk about they probably would never trick or treat again the rest of their life. But he was always, it was the strangest thing. This is why I've come to believe there are people. He never did anything to ever try and harm one of his kids or scare his kids. When they first got there, they had that stench, but that he stopped that. They can control that stench.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
control it.
They must have some gland or something, but when they want you to stay away without having to confront you, they'll produce that, and it's a sour pig pen smell type
Mhm.
roadkill. I mean, it's just the most god awfulest stench you ever smelt in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And but they controlled it, and all the rest of the time that stench never smelled. But I knew he was there. I could see him, his outline, shimmering light of him, cloak back there. So then I was getting to the point where, like I said, these juvenile Sasquatch would come over the years, and they would like tag me, like you're playing tag,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see because I could see the limbs and stuff where they'd run off through the woods and hear the kind of pat pat pat, not loud, but they snuck up on me. I didn't hear them sneaking up on me. And so about the third or fourth time this happened, I was going to the woods by myself, and it was kind of in the northern part of the woods where all this type of activity would happen. And kind of it was almost like a path, but kind of like a deer trail, game
Mm-hmm.
trail. That makes sense. Because I was exploring. I wouldn't. You couldn't get super lost. It wasn't out in the desert or mountains. But so one time I felt, and this was different. This started at the top of my shoulders, went down my back to my rear end, and it was like a soft caress. And when I looked and I turned again to face forward to actually it was my left, there it was. It was a shimmering image about 3 feet away. And I'm looking because this light's kind of sparkling in the outline, but it was like it was a little bit taller than I was, but it had like small breasts, or adolescent juvenile Bigfoot. And whatever reason, she wanted to touch me and stood there. This one did not run off. This stood there, and we was standing there kind of for about almost 5 minutes. And I was contemplating reaching out and see if I could touch that, but I was scared. I didn't know if that was something that might trigger a bad response. Maybe cause them to. I've never done that. Never tried to touch one. I wish now that I probably had. I don't think anything bad would have happened.
Would
And I
you
think it.
have described it? And I have a reason for asking this, but would you have described it kind of them running their fingers down your back? Because I
And
know of a person who was touched like that at night. They
huh.
were leaning in their trunk of their car, and something came behind them and kind of went from their shoulders all the way down their legs.
Yeah.
Very, really soft. And
Yeah.
they were afraid to turn around. They just stood there for a long time. And when they finally turned around, they couldn't see anything, but they actually got healed that night of a sickness they had.
Right.
And it was like that was the act of healing them, I think, or
Right.
something.
Wow. Wow.
You know, I may mention this or not, but going back in time when this first happened, Sasquatch, when I was in the creek, that happened after the day after I was in the portal. I think now that big Sasquatch had come up close to me, and I think he was scanning me, and I think he realized, okay, that somehow he could see the implants inside me, and knew, but he didn't want to scare me. He might have been getting close enough to lay hands on me to check see if I was all right, because it was almost like he was concerned because he knew he had to blast me pretty good with that infrasound. And it might have been something that would have jacked me up internally or internal organs. And I think he was checking on me, saying, "Okay, he's all right. He's walking, talking. I'm
Hmm. Hmm.
scanning." This is some of the paranormal powers that they had. And when he realized, okay, he's okay. I thank God he didn't damage you bad or hurt him really bad. He could have.
What happened with the female? So y'all are standing facing each other, and then what happened?
She just stood there real still, but she didn't run away. She was just standing. I think maybe she was either waiting to touch me again or wait for me to touch her. I don't know. It
Could you
sounds
s-
awkward.
could you see her face?
No, it was she was cloaked. But I can see a shimmering light, but you can kind of see that outline. You know, like the Predator movie,
Hmm.
where you could see kind of the outline, but you couldn't really see the face. She didn't move, and I didn't move, and so finally, eventually, I backed off, and then she slowly backed off and went walked down, but didn't run. And but it was just that was the last time, and then after that, we'd moved away because I was a little older, and it was just maybe another year or two after that we'd moved again. But the other thing I was going to bring up, I know I'm probably leaving a lot out, but I'm packing this steamer trunk of information. But I would hear human voices conversing like in a foreign language. And I mean, it was actually like they were asking questions, and another one would answer. So I would run down the path, and sometimes it sounded like it was coming from the creek, and I'd run there, and nobody'd be there. And I thought, well, that's odd. And I mean, their voices were loud. I mean, they should have been right there. It was that, and it sounded like human voices. And that happened numerous times where I'd be in the woods and somebody talking. And then one time, so I assumed, figured out that it was Sasquatch. I don't know if they were talking about me or what the topic of conversation was, but at one time, I remember was in the north part of the woods, and I was looking around. I was going in circles, and the talking continued. Usually, it would stop, but the talking continued. And so I'm looking around, and I'm actually stopped and scratched my head looking, and I could hear laughter. It may have been the big Sasquatch and the female Sasquatch. I don't know, but apparently they were amused that I was walking around in circles looking for these voices. And it was like they were asking each other's questions, and then they would kind of answer, and then kind of tee hee or kind of snicker, But it sounded human, but I could, they were well cloaked. And I think that amused them that I was out looking for. But that, when I realized then that they have a spoken language. And so I realized right then, these are not apes. These are not some dumper. They're not a descendant of the, I think it's called Gigantopithecus blackie or something. It was like a big prehistoric orangutan that lived. I said, these are people. And that's when it really dawned on me, that confirmed it, that these are people. They have a spoken language. They have emotions. They, they saved me. I mean, twice he saved me from the portal and then from that dog. That dog would have killed me. And so I tell people, if you're going to look for a Bigfoot, don't take a dog with you unless you got on a leash and it obeys commands. Because if it takes off and it takes after one of these things, they're going to kill it. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm a dog lover and pet lover, but don't take your dog. Yeah, I know there's people, well, my dog can, see these things. That's great. But keep him at your side or her at side. Don't let that dog off the leash and let him run because they will kill it.
Yeah, yeah.
That they deal with any dog that's uh, threatens them
Aggressive.
or challenges them,
Aggressive.
the
Yeah.
aggressive, they will deal with it immediately, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be an outcome that you want if you're
Yeah.
a dog owner.
I
Don't
agree.
do that.
So after you moved away from that place, then that was the end of your Sasquatch encounters?
Yes. And it was also the end of my abduction.
Hmm.
Um, the reason, now I'm a Christian. I don't know who was abducting me or what they look like or anything, but one night I was going through this and I was praying to Jesus because I didn't want to go through this anymore. I was tired of it. And I heard this calm, reassuring voice say in my head, do you want me to make them go away? Just like that. And I was sleep paralysis and I could barely get out. Yes. And instantly after, I'd prayed Jesus before that night. And instantly after that night, that was the end of it. I never had any more
Oh,
Hmm.
uh, visitation or, I'm leaving one more thing out. I know this is only Sasquatch story, but before that, 2 weeks before, I was seeing shadow demons or shadow people
hmm.
with bright red eyes inside the house. That's when it really scared me and wrapped up. And I got close to Jesus. You come to Jesus moment. That was a come to Jesus moment when and I truly believe in my heart it was Jesus. And he said, and asked me, gave me the choice, do you want me to make this all go away? Or make them go away? And I said, yes. And that was the end of it. From that was when I was in early 20s. I never had any
Hmm.
more dreams or shadow people or Sasquatch, nothing.
Wow.
So people that are Christian think this is all made up and well, if Jesus was there and he did stop it. And but the Sasquatch, I felt like they were more benevolent. I'm not saying all Sasquatch are there. Don't go run up, see a Sasquatch, try and shake its hand and say, hey, I'm Joe and you must be Harry Henderson. How about come over to my house and have a bowl of popcorn? Watch. It's not like that. And I'd say there's Sasquatch that are malevolent. There's Sasquatch that are benevolent. And I thank God I
Wow.
just yeah,
What an
it's
amazing story. I tell
yeah.
you.
Well, and this is the thing. Everybody asks us, well, why didn't you tell anybody for 20 years? I said, well, you try to go through all that and you tell somebody that and see if they believe you. And I kind of I've got friends and family that are closed minded. I've got friends and family that are open
Sure.
minded. And I had a couple of friends that have had the same experience like we have had.
Mhm.
And I liken it to a spice cabinet in the kitchen. If you go over to the closed minded people, you open up their spice cabinet next to the stove, there's salt and there's pepper, nothing else. You go to the open minded people in the kitchen, open up, there's salt and pepper, and there's like garlic powder, oregano, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Well, I
It's a
think that was a
richer
song.
it's a richer life in some ways.
Yeah. And you go to our cabinet and you open it up, and we've got dried chili peppers in there.
Spicy.
Yeah.
We've been
It's
there,
spicy for
done that.
sure.
It's helped you experience the burn, pain, and if you go back to those closed-minded people, try and tell them about the chili peppers, they say you're crazy. You're
Yeah.
completely out of your ever-loving mind, and then they look at you and say, "You need help."
They'll say nobody eats chili peppers. What are you talking
Yeah, right. You're wrong. And they said, and take that package of bologna you're trying to feed me back with and get out of my house. So you go over to the
No, it's
house that's
true.
got the open-minded people, and they'll discuss it, and they'll kind of like chili peppers. Well, sit down here at the kitchen table and tell me more about this.
Yeah.
And then you go to the house where we all live in our cabinet. Oh yeah, here's some hot salsa and chip dip and stuff. Yep, I know all about that.
Well, we learn who are the people that we feel free to speak to and who are the people that we just
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and
don't
it's
ever get a good response from. And
no. I've actually had people tell me, that they said you're crazy, you're out of mind.
sure.
Point their finger and you need help. Like, and I thought, no, I just need to tell somebody my story because it's a truth, and this stuff's actually out there in our world, and we
Mhm.
don't know everything that's in our world. We think we do. We
Yeah.
like to label everything and put it in a nice, neat file cabinet, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And yes, God does create other life, and I think He creates other life in outer space too. there's also fallen angels and everything. But I mean, there's other cryptids. I think I've never experienced like a dog man or a lizard man or mothman or any of these other creatures. But I don't judge people that they haven't say, well, you can't see that. You need help. I say, I'm at least open minded on that part because I've seen the Sasquatch and UFO. So
Yeah.
who am I to judge them? I
Right.
can't.
Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience? Anything you want to say to them?
I'll give a couple of warnings. I gave one about taking your dog if you're actively in the field researching this. The other thing I know, I gave some information about the extremely low frequency, the 20 hertz. And I'd caution if you think that there's a Bigfoot portal and you want to go try that, and you have some kind of electronic instrument that emits that signal or a musical instrument, whatever, I would advise strongly against that. It's not a pleasant experience. When you're in the portal, it is, but the result's going to be bad. You're going to disappear off this earth and may never be seen or heard from again. If you would actually happen to stumble across a real Bigfoot portal, I think it's all portals. I think there's other portals that's here on this earth permanently, and I think the Bigfoot, they can create their own portal because they've can transport. There's tracks that'll come out of nowhere and stop out in the middle of like a field or somewhere that like where did they go?
Right.
This is just me speaking as a Christian. If you do experience any other cryptid, like a dog man, a werewolf, a lizard man, uh, rebuke them in the name of Jesus first, and then ask questions later.
Right.
I've heard that where these dog men and lizard men and stuff have vanished as soon as Jesus' name was uttered. And
Right. Right.
that's a three things of advice I'd give somebody that would.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you reaching out way at the beginning to us at the Sasquatch Outpost because I would never have heard your story had you not done that. So,
Yeah, it feels good to me. This is my therapy because I held it in for 20 years, and it was so bizarre in so many facets. Things happened at the same time.
yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised. The only thing that kept my sanity probably was Jesus, probably keep me together. And I think God kind of wanted me to experience this and later on now share this because this is happening in the world. And I feel like God wants to tell us that this is happening. Don't be afraid. I'm here with you. I'm watching over you. That these Sasquatch are people. And no, you don't know everything that I've created and everything that's going on in this world and in other realms.
Mm-hmm.
But just know I'm here and there for you. Just like Jesus said, he said, I'm with you until the end of time. And I do believe that. So I just felt like it was time to get this story out. I'm hoping maybe that more people that have experienced UFOs or Sasquatch or both or any other cryptid come out, reach out to you. The more this gets out there, maybe the scientists will finally get up off their duff and start coming and investigating this instead of just poo-pooing, oh, it's a man in a costume. Oh, it's mass hallucination. Or UFOs, it's planet Venus. Or my favorite, it's swamp gas.
Right.
And swamp gas, I don't even live next door to a swamp. That's what they did. Now they've come out, and these whistleblowers come out to Congress. And I said, if you don't believe UFOs, maybe telephone or write a letter to your congressman or congresswoman and ask them if UFOs are real.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
if we have deep underground bases. Or go talk to the First Nation people, the Native Americans. They've reported this kind of stuff for hundreds of years.
Right. Right.
They've got it in their lore. And so, I mean, and then look at all the movies, all the documentaries, the reality shows and stuff. I said, is everybody making this up? I mean, there's scientists, Rover Krantz, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Maitreya, I can't think of her last name.
Maria Mayor.
Maria, yeah, I'm sorry. And they're putting their reputation on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to come out and report all the paranormal stuff that Bigfoot does and possible connection with UFOs. And I think it's great because it's been going on for a long time. And maybe
Right.
it's time we all take our heads out of the sand and start realizing what's going on in this world.
Right.
We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
You're
much
welcome.
for
Yeah.
sharing everything you have with us, and I'll be in touch with you real soon.
Okay, well, thank you guys. And
Thank you, Joe. But we really appreciate you sharing everything that you
oh, no
share.
problem. I appreciate you listening to me and having me on. So, well, God bless you both. And
Thanks.
hope continue your work. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing out there.
You're
And I'll
welcome.
keep watching and keep
Please
track
do.
of your research.
Thank you,
Please
Joe.
do. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. You know, could be different ones of our listeners will identify with different parts of the story.
Yeah.
But he shares things I've never heard before. So I don't doubt him. I just have never heard, about people crawling inside of a tree and having these experiences. So
Yeah. And I hope if there's someone else out there that has had such an experience or anything kind of resembling seeing the orbs come down and then swirling around them, and I would love to hear about it if there's anyone else out there. And it's also fascinating that the male Sasquatch literally showed himself and showed themselves cloaking, the ability to do that. That's so exciting.
well, thank you, Sibylla, for joining today. And so thank you to all of our listeners. We look forward to having you back with us next time. And I look forward to co-hosting with you, Sibylla, for our next episode, whatever that may be.
And thank you guys for being here. We love you all.
Absolutely.
Hope to see you
Take
soon.
care and keep on squatching.
Good night.